Hi, everybody. Steve Haggerty, Cause for Concern. Are you listening? I certainly hope so. We got a pretty important episode for you guys today with our Cause for Concern. As always, Garrett Allen Dalwitz will be joining me here shortly. First, via a little video that he had produced, and then live and in person as we've recorded the episode. We do have some very special guests on the program today. Our first ever guest on Cause for Concern. We're very excited. Two wonderful people who work for a tremendous project. They're going to talk about that and how important it is. We're talking about PTSD and veteran suicide. As a former first responder, I have some experience and some knowledge with PTSD. Doesn't matter if you served in theater, doesn't matter if you were on a base in the States or in another country, but weren't on the front lines, you can still suffer from PTSD. You are not alone. There is help. Never feel like you're alone. We're going to put some links up on the website where you guys can reach out to for some help. We're going to put some links up there where you can make some donations to this particular cause for concern, which is very important to both Garrett and myself, and I'm sure it is for a lot of you listeners out there. The recent drawdown in Afghanistan, I know, has left a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths, the way it went down. Regardless of your political affiliation, it can be triggering for some people, and it brings back some of these events and brings up some of this trauma, some of the things they've experienced. We've been at war for a long time in the Middle East. It's important that we talk about it. Okay, we want you guys to be heard. You are not alone. If you have resources that you want us to share, if you have foundations you want us to share, your cause for concern at gmail.com. We'll share them. Here's my friend Garrett.
Good morning, everybody. It is 4 a.m. on September 23rd, 2021. It's 4 a.m. and I can't sleep as usual. There's a lot on my mind. This is episode 3. And as the last show proved, we've turned the corner away from politics, maybe away from the Roman Empire. Maybe a little bit. We're still sort of here, but I'll explain that a little bit later in the show. Are you listening? Is everybody out there listening? Because there's a lot of people crying for help right now, and we need to start talking about it, and we need to listen. Suicide takes 47,000 lives per year or more. 8 million adults in the US will experience PTSD. 10% of those who experience PTSD will attempt suicide. Approximately 6,500 veterans take their lives every year. Roughly 22 veterans will die today. Yeah, 22. Let's compare to 7,000 that have died in conflict zones. Not per year. 7,000 veterans that have died since 9/11 in conflict zones. Let that sink in for just a second. Veteran suicide makes up 14% of total suicides in America. 14%. Just to be clear, this show will focus on veteran PTSD and veteran suicide. But there's more to it. The stats speak to horrible, horrible success rate against this debilitating illness, post-traumatic stress disorder in public, not just for veterans. We hope, though, that by bringing awareness and support for veterans, that we can help the larger community, that people will understand through veterans and expanding the show out to include others that were able to do something, bring something to the table, along with you, the audience, try to stop and save lives. One more thing. Stop this atrocious statement. Suicide is a selfish choice or way out. Until you understand the pain, the confusion, the hopelessness that most of you may never feel or even understand. Some years ago, I took the 22 a day challenge. Many of you probably saw it on Facebook, saw it rotating around. It was pretty simple, you know. We're going to do 22 push-ups a day in order to bring awareness to the 22 veterans a day who take their own life. Like everything else for me, as my friends will tell you, I take everything to the extreme. Sorry, that's just the way I'm wired. I did 100 a day, 100 push-ups. Well, 100 push-ups, 100 sit-ups, 100 squats, 50 pull-ups, and 50 dips every day. Every day. Until I reached 10,000. I thought to myself, hey, you know what, if a veteran that is hanging on, pushing past the pain of their life every second, every minute, every day, week, year, if they could deal with that pain, then I can surely incur a little bit more pain and push past it. But like everything else in life, you know, once you get to that place, you want to do more. You want to give more. And that's where I'm at. That's where Steve is at. And that's where this show is at right now. This is cause for concern. I hope at its best. And I hope you guys out there embrace this, send emails, support us, and support our veterans. So PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. World War II veterans used to call it shell shock. It's the same thing. What is it? What does it feel like? What is the experience? And how debilitating is it? Imagine that your nightmares happen while you're wide awake. That every hour of every day is colored with intrusive thoughts, recurring and horrifying images. Imagine reliving violence, feeling endless shame, uncontrollable mood swings. Picture yourself trying to find just one moment of peace in a day spinning horribly out of control. You can't even handle the basics of life. Your family, bills, any other relationships, work, if you even have a job. These things not only appear as battles, but battles lost. Little by little, you feel life slipping away, and you drift away from the things and the people you used to love and used to love you. Some, maybe even many, will give up on you. And the ones that don't, sadly, you'll push away. Veterans, at their worst, will isolate. Silence, the silence of isolation becomes their friend until they walk down that dark staircase to a low-lit room and close themselves away. The silence of isolation becomes both your friend, a comfort, and your enemy. you find yourself saying, this can't be the way this is supposed to end. But you concede that it's better than the pain of life that you know. See you after the break.
Welcome back from the break, everybody. As heavy as that intro was, we can't pull any punches. This is a deadly serious topic, and many of you out there more than likely know somebody who is suffering from PTSD. Whether it's a family member, loved one, friend, coworker, and society as a whole, this is out there. And we need to do everything we can to try to fight back against post-traumatic stress disorder. Just to get this out of the way, I myself am a veteran and a combat veteran. But my mission has always been about my brothers and sisters out there. So if you want to say to me, thank you for your service, I humbly say thank you for that. But I encourage you to thank me by going out there and supporting veterans. My brothers and sisters, your brothers and sisters, your people out there. Give time, awareness, money where you can. Any support for veterans will help. And we need to do that. So, Steve, what is PTSD and how do we spot it?
Okay, well, there's a lot of different ways that it can present itself. Post-traumatic stress disorder, everyone's familiar with the term. Someone undergoes a traumatic event. They witness it, they partake in it. And I want to point out too, right, we're talking about PTSD and veteran suicide and things like that. It's not just the big burly guys out in the field carrying an M4, throwing rounds or taking rounds. It's people on bases, in theater, out of theater. It's men, it's women, it's all kinds of abuse, whether it's physical, emotional, sexual abuse, things like that happens to our first responders. As a former medic, I have some experience. As a healthcare provider for the last 25 years, I've seen it. It's everybody. And G said, you know, loved ones and family members and people in your circle. It's out there. So please be aware and let's talk about some things. Stress, anxiety, hypervigilance, overreacting to things, emotional outbursts, sleep issues, nightmares, drug and alcohol abuse, self-medication, some things like that are some of the signs. Once a person undergoes an event like this, it gets locked in their brain. Our brains are an amazing structure, but it can't heal itself. And when these things happen, people need tools to work through it. Three big parts of your brain that get impacted are the amygdala, the hippocampus, and your prefrontal cortex. The amygdala is like your fire alarm. Once this goes off, it triggers the autonomic nervous system, the sympathetic nervous system. Your heart rate goes up. It's your fight or flight. And so you're ready. Rounds are coming in, you load up, bang, 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 you run into the fire, you defibrillate that patient, you go through these events. And then once it's over, the parasympathetic, the rest and digest section of your brain should take over, okay? But when someone goes through PTSD, it never takes over normally. So they're hypervigilant and have a lot of problems associated with it. And once they have that trigger, you know, years even down the road, the brain can't tell this trigger, this current event from the original danger. The hippocampus, posterior section of your brain, this is like your learning center. It's a big job. It becomes smaller and less active. Studies have shown through MRIs and CTs of people who have PTSD. It leads to memory issues, and problem solving issues. So that gives them further problems and issues, to mess up my alliteration there, with getting out of these modes of hypervigilance and how to heal themselves or get better. And then we have the prefrontal cortex, frontal part of your squash. This is your rational brain, rational thought, decision-making, and things like that. And with PTSD, it becomes less active. It slows down. So learning new information or things like that can really overload the nervous system, and they're stuck in these modes. They can't get out of it. These parts of our brain aren't working. We have problem-solving skills. We have socialization skills that falter, that they don't want to go out. They feel isolated. And you and I have talked, we've both talked with combat vets and first line responders that we know and things like that. You feel like you can't talk to anybody about it. It gets very hard. Like you can talk to another combat vet. I can talk to another medic or a firefighter or a police officer or things like that, because we kind of get it. Loved ones in our circle don't understand. So we try to explain things to them. And sometimes it comes out very morbid and people are like, Jesus Christ, I can't believe you fucking said that.
Right.
And it's taken the wrong way.
I think, Steve, to your point, Steve, I think people don't, maybe this needs to be said. People that are first responders that deal with this sort of tension, people that are veterans have just naturally a very cynical and warped sense of humor. And either you get it or you don't get it. And that's sort of a separate language in itself. And I think, if I could, you just hit on something that I was thinking about, as you said, it was such a great point. All these, you said that these veterans, these first responders, rational thought becomes more difficult. Talking to people they know becomes more difficult. There's problem solving skills, they sort of go out the window. The one thing that you can say definitively about first responders and military people is their ability to rationally think through problems and problem solving amongst a multitude of pressures and situations is bar none the strongest amongst any people probably in society. Their ability to shut everything down around them and to respond to traumatic situations. And when they lose this, I think there's an intense confusion. And to your point, they become isolated. They can't talk to anybody. They don't know what's happening. And to me, that's, as you said it, I was so thinking of the cumulative effect of everything you were talking about that goes into this.
Yeah, absolutely. And, we had talked one other time and you had mentioned, you had said a phrase like, it's not the bear that ruins the picnic, it's the ants. It's all those little things. And for combat vets and for first responders, people that go through this, yeah, it's the little things. Like when you're trying to talk to someone and they're like, oh, the line was so long at the grocery store today and they're all butthurt. And you're just like, oh my God, are you seriously bitching about that?
Right.
And it's true. When you put these people in a crisis situation, there is nobody better at it, 100%. And then, but when they undergo these traumatic events, when they're trying to do that normal stuff, it's hard, and communicating with people is hard, and it makes it very difficult. And there's a lot of triggers, right? I've had friends, combat vets, that, they're driving through a parking lot and they see a bag on the side and, a little fluttering Walmart bag or something. They're thinking, fuck, IED, and I got to swerve. Yeah. We've talked about smell. Smell is a tremendous trigger for people. And whether it's, the smell of diesel, the sound of a diesel engine, the smell of burning flesh, like once you trigger it, something that reminds you of that, it instantly takes you back. And with PTSD, the hardest part is your brain, because it is trapped in these modes, can't tell the difference between this is just a trigger, it's not happening to you now, that event is not going on, to your brain saying, oh no, fuck that, it's going on and you're in it right now. And because we can't rewire our brains, we have to go through different therapies and try different things.
This is not imagination. This is
not
a physiological response.
It is real. They are there, and it's overwhelming. There are people you've heard say, like the reptilian part of your brain. That's your survival mode, your autonomic nervous system, fight or flight. You have the mammalian, which is your limbic, your emotional system, fear, things like that. And then the neo-mammalian part of your brain, this is sensory and learning, and it goes along with the amygdala and hippocampus and prefrontal that we were talking about. They're stuck, they're trapped, they're locked into these modes. And with the problem-solving issues, with the sensory and learning issues, with the inability to control emotions and things like that, their nervous system is inundated, hypervigilant, constant, and smallest things can set them off. And people around them see them explode and do these things, and they're just like, wow, and they don't know what to do.
So what do we do? What do we do for this? I mean, what are the answers for this? I mean, this is 30 years plus of combat in the Middle East alone. What do we do to solve this right now as people are coming home, or what have we been doing really that's
sure
working?
There's a lot of different therapies. Obviously they do psych meds like Zoloft and things like that, but we know those have their own built-in problems. And if you have PTSD and they have suicidal thoughts and things, I put you on these medications. Big side effect you always see on the commercials: if you feel suicidal, don't take this. Well, fuck, I am. You're supposed to be giving me something that helps.
Right.
And you mentioned we've been in Middle East for 30 years. I mean, shit, Afghanistan for 20 years, and the last, 5 or 8, Christ, I never even mentioned it on the TV half the time. No one heard about it in the news. Nobody gave a shit.
Sure.
But these men and women are still coming back, and they're still going through this trauma, and they're still out there. We need to help. There's medication. They do MAO inhibitors, and they do some, anti-anxiety meds and benzodiazepines, lorazepam and Ativan and things like that. But there's also cognitive behavioral therapy, which helps them work through these thoughts when they start to kind of turn them away a little bit, if you will. It's a very simplified explanation. There is cognitive perception therapy, helps we rewire their brains a little bit. And there's a bunch of different ones. One of the biggest impacts that people have had, and the big part of the show that we're talking about today, is service dogs and therapy dogs. We mentioned some of the signs and symptoms we'll see of PTSD, the nightmares and anxiety attacks and inability to deal and stuff like that. With service dogs, a veteran is paired with a service dog, and these dogs are trained to wake them up when they're having a nightmare, to get them out of it. They'll ground them by pawing at them or nudging or leaning on them. If they sense their person is having an anxiety attack or starting to go, they lead them to an exit. We've all seen them in the grocery store. We've seen them out and about. Incredibly important. And if you guys are listening and watching, please donate. These dogs, $20,000 to $30,000 to train a service dog. Their value is 100,000 times more than that. Animal therapy. Even if veterans or sufferers of PTSD, first responders, whatever, are going to animal therapy sessions, even once a week, it shows a significant reduction through all these studies that they've done on signs and symptoms, reduced anxiety, better socialization skills, improved coping skills. In a lot of cases, the required dosages of medications, or they're able to come off some of those meds. And weaning from medication is incredibly difficult in and of itself, let alone when you're living with PTSD. So any help there, because we know when they do feel isolated and alone and don't want to talk, what if a lot of them do? They turn to the bottle, they turn to pills, they turn to drugs. And, self-medication is great. Everyone's been there once in a while. But when you take it to the next level, it becomes a problem. And once they start drinking heavily or doing drugs or whatever, now they're getting back to that downward spiral that they can't get out, because we've mentioned those learning and coping capabilities and memory issues, they keep them stuck. So it's really important that we get these men and women this help. And one of the big ones is, again, service dogs. And, you had mentioned 2G when we were talking about this, and I wasn't even thinking about it. There's a lot of service, military working dogs that suffer from some PTSD. They're out there, bomb sniffing dogs and things like that. And they've been through this trauma as well. And when they're paired with a veteran, it helps them both. And dogs, we know, are incredibly loyal. Horses, equine therapy is big. We need to be as loyal as these men and women were to us, back to them, and do as much as we can, because there's a lot and they need healing. You were talking about some of those numbers. The most combat veterans ever basically walking the street. They need our help.
Yeah, there's a lot of avenues out there, and two organizations we're working with, Operation Shockwave and Pause out here in Phoenix, as well as Soldier's Best Friend. I have the honor of working with Soldier's Best Friend, and we're doing an event, golf tournament, sponsored by Carvana, out in Talking Stick. So that's going to be a great outing to bring awareness for veterans who are suffering out there. Again, there are so many veterans that need our help. These service dogs are an integral part of the assistance. As Steve said, they assist with lowering the medication usage. They help get them out of, these PTSD episodes that are going to happen before they even know that they're in a PTSD episode or moving in that direction. The dog knows already. It's an incredible relationship. It's not a new relationship, guys. As you heard in the background, my dogs are barking outside. I have 4 dogs of my own. They're not service dogs per se, but the loyalty they show to me and how I respond to that is intense. And just as a personal note, everybody out there, guys, the people around you that talk to you every day, and I have several people, even over the last couple of weeks, that have reached out to me and asked if I'm okay. I can't tell you, even as a veteran or as a person, the impact you can have on somebody's life just by asking, are you okay? Is everything all right? When somebody sees that you are not the way you normally are. Believe me, the impact you think may be small, but it may be the most important thing that you say today. Please, after the break, we're going to have some interviews and how impactful on his life. As he says to me, I would not be here today if it was not for my service pet. Be back after the break, guys.
All right, everybody, we're back from the break. Thanks for listening. Are you listening? We have some very special guests joining us today here on Cause for Concern. We're talking about PTSD and veteran suicide, talking about service animals, talking about being loyal to these men and women who have been loyal to us and to our country. We're joined by Ryan and Jana Newman. They're part of Operation Shockwave. Thank you guys very much for joining us here. Tremendously appreciate it. Thank you for your service, both of you, for everything that you guys do. G, I'm going to turn it over to you. These are your special guests that you brought in. We're super appreciative of them. Take it away, my friend.
Right, and Jana, how are you doing?
Doing good.
Good.
Doing really good. Thanks for having us today.
We really appreciate
Absolutely, absolutely. So, you guys are the first guests on this show. This is episode number 2, and we are so excited.
Inaugural
so
guests.
So excited to have you on the show, really. Veterans are on our first and foremost on our mind every day, especially with Afghanistan winding down right now. Now, the 20 years in Afghanistan, the 10 before that, Iraq, a lot of veterans are coming home, a lot of issues, a lot of things going on, and we need to talk about it. We really, really do. And I've heard your story. I've talked to Jenna as well. And how did you wind up at this point? Tell the listeners how you wound up here at this place.
Well, I did 8 years, just shy of 8 years in the U.S. Army. And when I signed up, I'm pretty patriotic, and I really just wanted to do something for the country and people, and just be able to give back. I had signed up for 3 years. I was going to do 3 years and become a cop and just keep serving. That's my whole goal in life, was to serve. And I met my wife when I was stationed in Texas, and it changed my life. I was like, hey, I really like what I'm doing. The military's a family, and I had a brotherhood I had never experienced. And we got married a couple years later. I ended up going to Fort Riley, Kansas. I was at Fort Hood, Texas on a rapid deployment unit for a couple of years. And I go, I want to raise a family. I'm tired of doing this stuff. Afghanistan was kicking off. And when I got to Fort Riley, I got there February 21st, and I had orders to go to the Iraq. April 3rd, I left for Iraq. So I went to a unit. I didn't know anybody, and we were off to war. I did a 12-month tour in Iraq during the ground war. And I came home, and I knew something was kind of different, a little bit different. By the time we got home, they told me I was getting ready. Within 9 months, we're going back to Iraq for another 12-month tour. The next tour was a bad tour. I've been blown up multiple times, IEDs, RPGs. I was involved in firefights. We came home, and I thought everybody else in the world had changed, not me, because you couldn't change me. I'm a hardcore soldier, and you can't break me. And what I found out was I wasn't able to leave. I got home, and I couldn't find a job. And I was like, God, who doesn't want to hire me? I'm a non-commissioned officer. I've done 2 combat tours. I've taken soldiers to war, and I can't find a job. And I started to kind of spiral out of control. And then I would go to a grocery store, and I'd leave my shopping cart because I couldn't shop because somebody looked at me, and I'd melt down. And we fast forward to about 2012. We've moved to Arizona. I'm working at a job that was high stress, and I just couldn't function anymore. Like literally, everything I could do in life, you could ask me to go kick in a door and run through a house to go fight the bad guys, and I had zero qualms. But you asked me to go to a grocery store, and I'd cry in the parking lot before I went in. And I didn't know what was wrong. And so I finally got to a point that I went to go get mental health, and they gave me a lot of medications. A lot. And everything I had, every pill I took had a side effect. And that side effect gave me another side effect. And before you know it, I'm up to almost 20 pills a day. And I wasn't functioning. Then I was self-medicating because the pill says this will make me feel better. So I'm taking handfuls of them because I just want to feel something. I remember my kids would do stuff and everybody would be happy. You know, your kid learns to walk. And I had zero emotion about my kid walking. It was all I had was anger and sadness in me. And I didn't know what was wrong. And in about 2012, I got to a point that I was working. We were losing our house. We were losing our cars. And everything I was supposed to do was, you know, soldiers take care of my family, right? And I'm not doing it. And I'm working my butt off. She's working tirelessly. And it got to a point that I was driving home one day on the 60 and I tried to kill myself. I took my seatbelt off and went into incoming traffic, trying to kill myself. And I pulled over and I'm like, what the hell am I doing? Like, how have I gotten to this point from being fearless to I am scared. I was scared to live.
Yeah.
I really was. I was really scared to live. I was scared to love anybody because everybody I got close to got hurt or killed. And I couldn't handle it anymore. I couldn't handle seeing people get hurt, killed, any of it anymore. And then I was losing friends to suicide. During this process, I lost friends to drugs, suicide, and everything else. And I was going, man, it's never going to end. Like I don't know how to fight this battle. This isn't the battle I was trained for. And so I went to mental health shortly after my incident on the freeway. And I go, I need help. There's something wrong. And I go, my last resort was a dog. I had researched service dogs, but I really didn't believe in it. And when I started pricing them, they were $20,000 to $40,000. I'm losing my house. I can't afford to put groceries on the, pay the electric bill, let alone buy a $40,000 dog.
Sure.
And so I found a program through my psychologist at the time that could get me into a program to train my own dog. And I'm going, this is stupid. Like, I'm not a dog trainer. How am I supposed to train a dog? And when I started the program, I'm all in. I'm a 100% guy. So I don't do anything half-ass. Everything's 100%. I'm 100% in. And I said, well, this is my last resort. I'm giving this dog my everything. And then as we got into the training, my dog started looking for me for the discipline and the training aspect of it. And so if I got home and I wanted to leave the house, she was at the door waiting for me. And she became my battle buddy I hadn't had in 10 years. That I had lost all my battle buddies, all my friends. I didn't have that in the civilian world. I fit in, but I didn't fit in with everybody. But my dog never asked me a question. When I had a breakdown and I'm crying, my dog doesn't want to ask me 100 questions of why you're crying. She just wants to make me feel better. And so Khaleesi was my first service dog. And that was the problem with the spouses is when we came home, they told them, don't talk to your spouse about what happened to us in Iraq.
They'll tell you when they're ready.
And the worst thing you could have done to me was not talk to me, because that's all I wanted was somebody to talk to me that didn't judge me, that I didn't think was judging me. Most people didn't, but in my brain, the civilians don't understand if I tell them, hey, I did this and this. You always get that look of either or the I'm sorry it happened to you. I always tell people, don't feel sorry for me. I did this. What I have done is taken me on the journey to where I am, which is the best thing I've ever done. I said, so don't feel sorry for me. I just wanted people to listen to my story so I could fit in somewhere. And my dog did that for me. I would sit there and have breakdowns with Khaleesi and talk to her, and she would just sit there and wag her little tail and lick my face until I smiled. And I remember having a flashback one day. It was one of the coolest things I had ever seen. Was my kids were upstairs jumping off my bed. And I start to scream at them. And my dog, like I could feel it leaving. Like I feel the room disappearing. And I'm like, uh-oh, this is bad. And my dog goes to the back door and starts scratching. And I'm like, Khaleesi, go out the doggy door. Why are you going to the door? And this is when I found out the magic of what they could do for me. And she starts scratching at the door. And so now I'm mad. And I get up and I open up the door. And she goes to my chair and sits down where I sat outside to hang out. And I go down and sit down with her. And she puts her head on my lap. I'm like, what? Go potty. I want to go back inside. And at that point, I realized My dog was smarter than me. Khaleesi actually physically made me get up and leave what was making me go into the mindset of melting down. And she was willing to get yelled at to get me out of the room. And I went outside and cried with her for about 15 minutes. And I was like, I get it. Like, you understand me. Like, it was the first person or anything I felt that had understood me from 2003 to about 2013. And it was that moment I was like, oh, I get it. Like, I understand there's more to this process of the dogs and healing, and I don't need the medications. Like, and from that point, I started to wean myself off of the medications, and I started to link up with other veterans that were dealing with similar things. Like, I could go into my class and have a meltdown, and people would be in the class and nobody cared because they've all been there. And I was able to start to reconnect with people that were like-minded and didn't judge. It was a judgment-free zone for most of the part. And having the dog that understood me and she just had unconditional love. And that is all I've ever, it's all I ever wanted for my dogs or anything. It was just having that unconditional love.
So Ryan, you mentioned some really big things there and some amazing, first thing comes to mind is task and purpose.
Mm-hmm.
For us military guys, for us military people watching out there, veterans, military personnel, they're all about task and purpose. They're all about loyalty. They're all about lack of judgment because let's be honest, we have a really perverse sense of humor.
Yes.
We deal with shock and we deal with a lot of things a lot differently than most people. And I guess, Jana, what have you seen over this time period and the change maybe in Ryan as this process has played out from, back all the way back when this started to now? And how does that look for you?
Well, I knew when my husband came home, just even in mid-tour leave after we had our first child, there was something different. I mean, you can just look at just the hollow look in the eye. It's a very far away look. And I'm like, okay, I have part of my husband here and the other part I don't have. And we're really good about communicating, but I just thought if the military is telling me not to ask, I'm not going to ask. I don't want to make him feel uncomfortable, worse than he already felt, because I saw the anger, I saw the sadness. I just didn't know how to reach him. And of course, when we moved to Arizona and, the economy was crashing, we were losing everything. It really kind of drove a wedge because we were both working so hard and tirelessly, but nothing was getting rectified. It wasn't going to be fixed. And you tend to have to really put what's important into perspective. And that's when we started to break down some barriers. And he was like, I'm so angry inside and I'm so sad inside. I don't want to do this. And of course, when I sat there and I was like, so you just don't love your family? Like you don't care? And he goes, that's not it. That isn't it at all. I just don't know. I feel so disconnected and I feel so hopeless. And he goes, I don't know how to find my way. And I didn't know how to help him, but I knew that he was making an effort because he did in treatment PTSD for 30 days. He would go to his appointments religiously. And that's part of the battle. I mean, it's a battle when we have to deal with the VA. It's frustrating. It's like you take a step forward, 10 steps back. And it's just like, why do I have to keep proving myself? But when he finally went into the program, I was still busy teaching and raising kids. So I was kind of like, well, this is your thing. This is your dog, not mine. Wrong mindset to have as a spouse. And I can't take that back, but I certainly feel like we fixed that in a lot of ways, especially where we are today. But I watched her change him and it gave me, I like had a warning beacon. I had a beacon of to say, today's a bad day. Don't go, keep the kids quiet, kind of keep your distance, take some time to let him decompress. Then I had a beacon to warn me of what's today like, because it's like a snap of a finger. And it's not that it's not still there, it is, but there's so many tools that we have put in place to make this possible. And when he when he went back in to train Gus, which is his giant schnauzer, because we had a lot of falling issues and the lab couldn't handle those falls. I had the opportunity. That's when his VA doctor said, no more, Jana. He needs you 100% of the time. And I'm like, we have 4 kids and a very limited income. I don't know how this is going to work. And the people that helped him train Khaleesi and Gus said, well, we need some help. And that's when I got to be immersed into not just watching what my husband was going through and what we were experiencing as a family, but other veterans and their families. And the more I would work with the veterans and helping them to train their service dogs, I was just like, I messed up. I messed up completely by not being a part of this, because there's barriers. It's really hard to break down those barriers because there's a sense of pride and loyalty, and they don't like to complain. Everything's fine when it's really not fine. That's the problem. And when I met with other spouses, it was kind of like, I'm not alone either. My kids aren't alone either. And then I realized this is bad. Like, we're not helping anybody when we leave out the family unit at all. And I don't care if it's a best friend, if it's a spouse, a boyfriend, a girlfriend, a child, a parent, a grandparent. Somebody needs to be on this journey with them, because it touches your heart, it opens your mind, and it reaches your soul. It really does. And you can see during the process who's struggling more. And then they start to realize it's not about just the dog. And that was the thing. We started to see things that we wanted to change, and it wasn't necessarily our training facility and our program. And so that's when we were able, and then COVID happened and they had to make some cuts. And I understood, but I just felt like a part of me was kind of taken from me, because I truly believe in what this program and what a service dog can bring to a veteran and their family's lives. And that's when some time passed, and we had Operation Shockwave reach out to us, and they just said, you guys still want to do this? And we're like, well, we'd love to, but we don't know the first thing about running a business. That's not who we are. And they said, that's okay. You do the training, and we'll do the rest. And it was like, who are these people? And when we started our PAWS service dog training, our whole thing to foster was that we wanted family to come in. We want it to be a judgment-free zone. We just want them to be themselves, because how else are you going to get to know somebody if they can't be who they really are? Sure. And so we were just reflecting on that the other day, because, we were out for a few weeks because we were ill and we weren't going to expose anybody else. And so we finally just got back in the classroom this week. And not only are the dogs excited to come back, but the veterans were excited to come back. And I'm like, that speaks volumes for what is happening in this room. And it's like 2 hours of magical stuff. And it isn't, you walk in and you don't think it's magic, but the transformation is night and day. And it happens differently for everybody. And you have to make a different effort and build a different relationship with each veteran, because they are their own person. And then you slowly build that, and you try to get the family to come in. And that's kind of where we are. We have some that are comfortable bringing their family in. And then we have more and more that are like, can I bring my wife in next time? We're like, absolutely. Absolutely.
You mentioned an awesome word, Jenna, and that's it comes to mind is journey. And you said it's the individual journey. And just to sort of move this to sort of the place of talking about the actual program, that journey that each of these veterans take, people don't talk about it. They don't talk about their journey. It's a singular event where they get to train with these great service animals, these dogs. They build a relationship, but they forget there's this big journey, how they got here. And I think, thank you, Ryan, for sharing that with us. And I think that, to me, I would love to hear more about some of these veteran stories, via email. Please email us at your cause for concern, please, at Gmail. Please do that, because we want to hear these stories. We really do. This is what makes it great. This is what makes our veterans humans, people that have feelings. They have a lifetime of experience, and most of us will never even understand. But the stories have to be told. They really, really do. So thank you.
Yeah,
So the program,
absolutely. I just one sec. I just want to mention a couple of things that Ryan had mentioned about the weaning himself off the medication, because there was a couple of things that G and I had talked about in the first segment of the show, where it's shown that these service dogs are allowing veterans who have gone through this to get off some of that medication, because like you say, there's so many side effects and things like that, and it's that loyalty and that love from that dog. And the example you used where he was trying to get you outside, I actually cited a specific point when we were talking earlier. And I think that's just so amazing how they could sense. He knew. He's like, all right, I got to get you out. And you gets you outside, and it breaks that cycle. And also, Jana, to your points, most people, when we talk about PTSD and veteran suicide, they're thinking about the soldier, the men and the women who are going through this. And sometimes the family gets lost in the family connection. That's also something else we were talking about. And it's so very important to not forget about those people. And kudos to you for everything that you've gone through and what you guys have done together. It's amazing. And to G's point where, yeah, we need more of these stories to get out there. We're going to drive some traffic to the website. We'll interview some more of the guys and the women and their families. We'd love to have some more stories. OperationShockwave.org, guys, make sure you check out their website. If you're going to shop on Amazon, you all shopping on Amazon, we already know it. They have an Amazon Smile link on their webpage. Please use it. These dogs are incredibly expensive, $20,000 to $30,000 to train the dogs, worth a million times more than that to these families. We're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back, folks, with more of Jana and Ryan here on Cause for Concern. Keep listening. All right, everybody, we're back from the break. Joining us still, Ryan and Jana Newman from OperationShockwave.org. Make sure you check them out. And PAWS, which is part of that, an acronym, PAWSS, Pups and Warriors Side by Side. Ryan, can you tell us a little bit about how the program works?
Yeah. So what we do is we either have you bring in your own dog, or we work with a couple different rescues around the valley, Desert Tails, and they will actually donate dogs to the veterans, fully vaccinated, microchipped, and fixed and ready to go for the veterans.
Outstanding.
Yep, which is a really huge fee. I mean, trying to buy a dog can get up a couple $1,000s. And so having these dogs donated, and we're saving a life at the rescue, and we're saving our life as a veteran, which is a huge team to work up with. And so the way our program works is we have them come in from anywhere from 6 months to a year, once a week for about a 2-hour class. And the way our class works is the first part of the class, we do different healing modalities to start. So either breathing techniques, different kinds of yoga, do like 5 to 10 minutes to get everybody calmed down. Trying to leave the house is a fight every day for us.
Sure.
And so then you're forced on a time schedule. We're pretty lax. We let you come in, get calmed down, and then we work with you and your dog for about 45 minutes on different tasks. So the first about 4 weeks of the program, or 4 months of the program, is basic obedience, and then learning to take your dog out in public and how to properly handle your dog. And then the end of our program is working on your service task, the 4 individual tasks that your dog will end up doing for you. So my dog Gus does PTSD alert for me. His flashback, nightmare detection. So he does perimeter check. I used to not be able to go to bed because I couldn't go to sleep because somebody could come in my yard. And so I would get up and walk around my house until 4 or 5 in the morning until my wife got up to go to work, and then I could go to bed because I couldn't put myself off. Well, Gus actually runs my perimeter about every hour on the hour once it gets dark for me. And he'll bark at my room to let me know that, hey, Dad, it's safe. And then he comes back in. And so back to the program. And what we really encourage is not the dog. The dog is a big part of this process, is training the dog. But what it does is it gives you the responsibility of being responsible for a battle buddy again. Every day that if I don't work with Gus when I was training him, he would be mad at me and like, hey, Dad, we're supposed to go out and do our basic obedience. And so now I'm liable for another life, like I was in the military. But what happens is I became more reliant on him than he was on me. And so what I had done is became agoraphobe. And so I couldn't leave my house. My wife would go to work, she would leave, the kids would leave, and I'd be at home with my dog and just staring at him. And so I made a deal with my dog when I got him is that every day we would leave my house because he liked to leave the house more than he liked to be here by far. And so me and him would go to the store, and if we were having a bad day, I'd just go to the gas station, get gas in the car, and would go home. But on the days that I would go and we were having a good day, we'd go to Starbucks, he'd go get his puppuccino, and then we would go to like the grocery store and start shopping. And that's how we instill the program, is we really run it as, once you're in our program, you're part of our family.
It's great. Ryan, you got about 4 minutes, babe. What do you guys do?
Well, and that's with our program, that's something I forgot to say earlier, is it is completely free for the veterans.
Oh, that is amazing.
So this program is completely free. We run off of donations and fundraising. We do a lot of fundraising and stuff, but this program is completely free for the veteran. And when we started this, one of the things we wanted to do is, it's expensive to buy gear for your dog. And so we actually supply a TSA certified backpack for the dogs. It comes with a food container. It holds up to 7 days worth of food for them. It comes with a portable mat for them, but we also provide them with their leashes, any safety equipment they really need for their dogs.
Wow.
We buy them the dog boots for their dogs that come with like Vibram soles boots. And at the end of the program, they will get a service dog vest for their dogs also.
Oh, that's awesome.
And yes, and we give them, and when they come into class, most veterans are on some kind of fixed income.
Sure.
We've partnered up with Chewy Dog Food, and they also donate to us every 2 months. We go in and we get pallets of food donated to us that we give back to the veterans.
Wow.
And we provide, most of the time when they come into class, we have all the treats for them set up so they can come in, fill up their treat pouch for the week, and call it good until they come in the next week and work. And that was for me when I went through, was I spent a lot of money on my dog. And my dog got top of the line stuff. If it was a leash, I bought the best leash for my dog. And so when we started this, that was my big thing is, can we provide everything these veterans need besides the dog? Equipment, training, and everything. How do we cover it? And that's what we were able to do with linking up with Operation Shockwave and getting our name out there. Is we've been able to provide everything for our students.
But there's more work to be done, right? There's more work to be done out there.
There's always more work to be done. Yeah,
guys out there, please, if you're watching this show, please donate, please give. It'll be up on the website, up on Your Cause for Concern. Please, it's an important charity. We need to save our veterans' lives. There's so much more we can be doing out there. And thank you guys so much for coming on the show. We appreciate it. We'd love to have you on again.
Yes,
we'd love to do
absolutely.
some outtakes through the website and talk. And we'd obviously love to talk about the journey of some of the other veterans in your program, to maybe do a deeper dive for the website, maybe for YouTube, to talk about this program in a little more detail on how it all works and how these dogs save veterans' lives, save family members' lives, and bring so much happiness back to some of these veterans that have endured so much.
Yep. No,
Thank you so much.
Thank you
for
guys.
having us.
My Gus was able to give my family back their dad and their husband because of my service dog. And that's what we want to do, is just give back to the people that have given so much that their family members can have their person back, their mother, their father, whoever it is. And that's what we're here for.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
We're here for you guys.
Thank you guys so much. We appreciate you tremendously and what you guys do. There'll be more on the website, operationshockwave.org. Pause, look it up. It's on there as well. Use their Amazon Smile account. Give if you can. Share the information. Are you listening, everybody? Your cause for concern at gmail.com. Send us your emails. Send us your stories. You got something you want to share with Ryan and Jenna, your story, a link to help them out, whatever. Send it to us. We'll make sure we get it to them. There's more coming, everybody. We'll be back for the last little segment here from G to close us out. Take care, everybody. Thank you. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Ryan. Thanks, Jenna.
Thank you.
So welcome back. One more segment, real quick, a message from me to you guys out there. I thought I'd tell you a little bit about my personal experience. Not much, just enough to get the message across. In 1991, I was 20 years old. I was just ending my tour out in the Persian Gulf. And I was in a small base in Kuwait City. A small team of us that stayed behind while everybody else went home to their family, friends, loved ones. We chose to stay behind because we wanted them to go visit their family anyway. I remember distinctly as we were unwinding a little bit one night, speaking to a chaplain. Small group of us, a small team. There were maybe 10 of us, all of us young, 20 years old, excited about our experiences. Maybe some of us were a little bit just lost, I guess, is a good way to put it. But the chaplain did what chaplains do. He preached hope. But he also had a different sort of message. And I remember him looking at us and saying, "You guys will never be the same." You know, at 20 years old, that message didn't stick. I was a cocky 20-year-old. Maybe I'm still a little cocky, but at 20 years old, you don't think about those things. And it was only long after I had left and multiple experiences afterwards that I came to understand what he was talking about. And I think at this point in this story, a lot of you out there who are veterans and maybe even family members are starting to go in the direction of thinking, I know where this is going. We don't return home the same people. People who suffer from PTSD, traumatic experiences, domestic violence, they're changed forever. Life doesn't just go back to normal. Now, there are things we do to both survive and get better, but those experiences we carry. You know, I think to myself and my veteran brothers and sisters out there, I don't think it's too much to say that most people will never understand what it feels like to have an artillery shell come down 5 feet from them, or 5 feet from the very spot they were just standing a couple seconds ago, or 10 feet. If you've ever smelled burning bodies, burning flesh, the smell never leaves you. Maybe every time you, as we said in the show, smell diesel, a memory comes back. These experiences, having bullets fly past your face, your head, combat, trauma, dead bodies, nightmares, they never leave. They change a part of you. But there is hope. There is hope. You guys are part of this hope. Every one of you that's watching this show, every one of my friends, like I said earlier in the show, that have asked at one time or another during the day, "Hey, are you okay? I'm worried about you." Thank you. Pass that on, guys, because it means everything to not only veterans, but people, that we check in on them, that we try our best to connect to people. Isolation kills veterans. It kills people who suffer. Isolation is the worst thing that can happen. You know, veterans require something. It's one of the greatest attributes of veterans, what they give to others, but maybe what they expect from others too, that they don't necessarily get. They get and demand loyalty. Loyalty above all else. And your friends, your family are loyal, but there's one more group beyond that that is immensely loyal. Service pets. Service animals are loyal without fail. That's why we've chosen this charity. Give to Operation Shockwave, give to Pause, give to Soldier's Best Friend. Every dollar counts. If you don't give, send the message out there. Reach out to a veteran today. Just like I said, just to say, are you okay? How are you? I haven't heard from you in a while. Do you want to get together for coffee? Do you want to hang out? Don't allow them to say no and isolate. Service animals provide that relationship that we can't when we're not there too. That Those animals need to be cared for day in and day out. And that relationship between that veteran and that loyalty that they demand and give becomes part of their life. It becomes the reason why they stay alive, as you've heard in this show. So please give what you can, send the message out there. Go to our website, Your Cause for Concern. Click on the links, give to charity, buy one of our t-shirts, our Soldier's Best Friend, PTSD episode, Cause for Concern logo shirts, which this show, we are so proud to be a part of changing society and bringing awareness to causes that can help our society. Stay tuned for our next show. Steve has got some great messages for you. And the one following through the holidays, homeless veterans, domestic violence shelters, and we are pushing strong to the end of the year to try to bring awareness to some of these issues and help society. Thank you so much. Are you listening? Because we just want to talk.